Okay, MSC and its collective action strategy, driving its challenges in global trade through collective action, as we've been on about. And by 2025, our members and partners will drive significantly improved compliance environment in the countries targeted by MACN's collective action. Naturally, we have countries that we've targeted, and Nigeria, as of the incident that I just mentioned just now, that is one of them. And India, naturally, as Deepak was mentioning, that's coming on stream. So that's going to be a work in progress, but very exciting as well. Okay, next one. So actually, Captain Rajesh mentioned this already, so it's not, yeah, he's already put this out there. MACN has worked together with International Chamber of Shipping and many other associations to set the agenda for the maritime corruption at the IMO. So we're all aware of that now. Okay, slide number 11, please. Again, this is just so people can understand why it's important to be a member of MACN and to protect your own organizations and also assist globally with collective actions. We have our members meeting coming up in Dubai next week, where we have roughly, I think it's about 150 delegates attending globally from worldwide. So, and again, this is a 2-day event. And it's all about capability building. How can we improve? How can we get out there? Now, the big challenges, in a nutshell, basically, is where we find challenges is two. For me, it's three actually. And Deepak mentioned it just now earlier on. Is that we need to get the message out into the nautical academies and into the sea training schools, because for the seafarers, because they are exposed to this not on a daily basis, but naturally they're exposed to this in various parts of the world when they're there. So unless they've actually given the tools to be able to defend them, when I say defend, to be able to assist and in actually dealing with the situation in these various ports and terminals, it's going to hinder the actual progression of the eradication of this. So it's really important to get the some sort of course out there into the nautical schools and the seafarer training centres. And the next one naturally is again is the reporting into the system, which is critical. Unless we have reporting into the system, naturally we're not going to make much indent. So it's really important to get to build on that 50,000 plus. Into 100,000 and onwards from there. So so we can actually continue with the work that has been done. And the other one, of course, is as we are here today talking about this, we really again and to get this message out into your organizations to the actual people on the ground dealing with the situation. There's no use having we all have our internal compliance programs, of course, but it's no use having a say no campaign inside your organizations unless the actual staff are on the ground who are dealing with this in the ports and terminals are actually trained up to be able to cope with this and deal with it. So again, it's important to get that message that filters down from senior management in companies down into the to the operators, vessel operators, and into the ports and terminals agents and right through the system. Okay, and number 12. Okay, as I said, this presentation will be shared with you if anybody wants it. So yeah, so from my side, as I've said, I've just summed up in three is the training of seafarers. Number 2 would be the reporting into the system. And number 3, in your own organizations, get it out there, get it to the people on the ground. It's really important. And I do see this, and it shocks me actually to see this and from some large companies where at the high level, everybody's aware of it. But at a low level, they've never heard of this on the ground. These are the people actually working for the same company. So it's important to get that message and it's filtered down to the industry. Yes, so I think that's me done. Over to you, Jagmeet.
Very quick questions coming out of your out of your presentation.
Yep.
I'm learning. Okay, thank you. So, so out of your presentation, one is like if we look at the world's 10 largest ship management companies, can we say that all of them are members of MACN?
I'm
Or
going to
not
say,
yet?
actually, maybe Rajesh can help
You're
me on that
muted.
one. Um, Rajesh? I would say no. I'll take, I would say no. But I would say at least 60, 70% are represented in MACN.
Yeah. Is it that they is it that they don't want to be members, or still we haven't made that effort to get them into our fold?
Um, Jamie, very good question. I'm not going to say they don't want to be members, but I think it's an understanding of what MACN is, and to get the message out there. And that's what with these members, and we have these twice yearly. We have these international members meetings. One always is in London, and the other one is always somewhere around the world. Is to get the message out into the members already who are involved, and then get the message out to the industry that we are there and we're MACN over the years, and it's a fairly new initiative. And if I go back to 2011, when it first started with, I think it was 8 ship owners actually. That's how it started, and it started with Suez Canal and the Say No campaign in the Suez Canal. That's how it all came about. Today we have 200 plus members, global shipping companies, and very large organizations are members of this. But again, as I try and get the message out there, is of the 200 members, hopefully is to get the message inside their own organizations down to the people on the ground. And this is not the challenge, but it's really important that right through the organization, it doesn't just sit at the compliance level of the company. It needs to go down into the operations department. And these are the people who are actually at the forefront and at the coalface, for want of a better term.
Right, right. Thanks. Thank you so much, Brandon. Just one very quick one. Uh, Regarding these miners and the power plant operators, big traders, like we are talking about Bungis of the world, the Cargills, the Vales, the BHPs, the Enlocal, all these people, are they also becoming member of MSCN? Because ultimately, the money that goes out or doesn't go out and the ship gets delayed, it concerns everyone.
Of course, naturally, they're a key part of the industry as well, a very key part of the industry. Some of the companies you mentioned there are members of MACN and are very active in the membership, and naturally drive it as well. So again, from a trading and a mining organization, these companies are at the forefront of this, and naturally it helps us as MACN to become a more powerful tool as we go along. Because around the world now, ports, if you mention the word MACN in ports around the world, in key ports that we've been operating in as MACN, we are well known in these ports now. So it's having an impact as we go along. And you'll find that in India as well. Once the help desk starts up and the word spreads, MACN becomes a powerful tool just by word of mouth, actually, as we go along.
Thank you. Thanks, Brendan. And the one thing that comes in my mind is you mentioned about people at the level of seafarers. And we have number of magazines which are, published for them, whether it is soft copy or hard copy. Are we as MSCN or as responsible people who would like the corruption to be eradicated from our industry, have some sort of write-up in each of these magazines so that the common seafarer on board and ashore is becoming more and more aware, and some sort of case studies which are published in such magazines? Is there anything like that, Brendan?
I'm going to put some. I'm going to say yes at a very low level, but naturally a lot more can be done to get this message out to the seafarers. And again, we are at the moment to get reporting done through MACN. Cecilia and her team sitting in Denmark, in Copenhagen. I'm personally in Durban receiving a lot of flyers now. So MASN flyers, which will be put on board, whether they're member vessels or not member vessels. This will go out to the masters on board to the ships as they come in now. So we're starting to promote. When I say promote, it's not actually the word. Is to get the word out there that MASN exists and it is a powerful tool and can be used in the defense of the seafarers in the ports. And I naturally, being one of the culprits in the early days back in the 70s and 80s, I'm very aware of this, and because it needs an understanding. Today the modern seafarer basically doesn't understand that going back, and not what I say not that long ago, in terms of in decades, it's not long ago. If you go back to the early 2000s, corruption was, and I'm not saying it was acceptable, it was talked about, but there was nothing done about it. So in the 70s, naturally, it was an acceptable practice. So it depends where you live. And I've had 10 international transfers from various countries, such as Indonesia and, I was based in Singapore before South Africa now, and I was based up in Shanghai for 7, 8 years. So, and working in countries like Myanmar, Thailand, and so I'm very aware of the challenge we've got ahead of us. And I'm talking in simple terms, naturally at high level that we've been talking about. I focus on on the ground, working with the teams on the ground to get the message out there.
Mr.
Margaret, may I just supplement?
Thank you so much. And now may I have our fourth speaker, Nelly. You're going to tell us about WWF. Don't press any of these buttons. I think you can do it from there. We'll put this one. You can sit there and do it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jagmeet, and I'm delighted to be here. I can actually speak from there. It's okay. It's okay.
I cannot do anything in this computer.
No problem. Yeah, it's okay. I'll just speak from here. It's fine.
Or maybe you can keep this here. Just before that, anything and everything that could go wrong is going wrong today, including this noise which is coming, drilling which is coming. This is exactly the fight against corruption. Like there are certain things which are under our control, certain things which are not under our control. But at the same time, we should not lose hope. We have to keep at it and work at it and get there. Thank you. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm delighted to be here and delighted to tell you about wildlife trafficking. And you might wonder what's the connection between the shipping industry and wildlife. So illicit, illegal wildlife trafficking is estimated to be between 10 to 20 billion US dollars per year. It's the fourth largest illegal trade by value after drug smuggling, human trafficking, and arms. But we see lots of parallels between illegal wildlife trading and drug smuggling, but unlike drugs, it's a low-risk, high-reward trade, which is very attractive to organized crimes. Shipping, of course, is used by traffickers to smuggle contraband, and shipping is attractive because of the ability to ship large volume, heavyweight cargo like elephants, ivory, timber, shark fins, pangolin scales, and shipping gives cost efficiency, but also there is a very low rate of detection. We knew that only about 2% of containers are being physically inspected. So that's why traffickers, they exploit legitimate transport companies and look for weaknesses and loopholes along the supply chains. So the biggest issue we see in the wildlife trafficking matter is that for many governments and customs and transport companies, it's a very low priority. So for governments, they look at it as a conservation issue, but this is not a conservation problem. This is a transnational organized crime, and organized criminal groups are behind the trade, and there is a convergence of crime between wildlife trafficking and money laundering. And we see, for example, large criminal groups, let's say Mexican drug cartels or drug cartels working in Golden Triangle, where they participate in wildlife trafficking and they use profits earned in wildlife space to they use those proceeds to invest in to buy arms or to smuggle drugs and things. So but we cannot give it to governments and law enforcement agencies to solve the problem. They have the mandate, but they also ask shipping companies, transport companies, to play a role in solving the issue. So I work for the WWF, and we are part of the United for Wildlife Financial and Transport Task Force. And this is really a great initiative, which was founded by established by the Royal Foundation by Prince William. And this is a great example of the public-private partnership, which helps to fill the gap and bring together financial industry, transport industry, law enforcement agencies, NGOs, and look for their way, how we can break the chain, how we can help transport companies to step up their efforts, how to raise the issue, to explain that there is a legal framework, there are tools and best practices which transport companies can embrace and to tackle the issue. And I'm mindful about the time. I know we're a little bit short, and so I just want to say that because we do not prioritize this issue, we think that this is some kind of conservation problem, some kind of for biologists or some conservation specialists to look at it. This crime became the fourth largest crime in the world, and this is the serious transnational organized crime, and this is how we have to look at it and deal with it. And corruption and wildlife trafficking, they go hand in hand. So transport companies have a role to play in it, and we at United for Wildlife, we can help to work together, to cooperate together, to bring best practices in fighting wildlife trade. Thank you very much.
No, before you go, Nelly, you have heard Brandon speaking, Rajesh speaking, and Deepakji speaking. So is there some sort of synergy between what you're doing and what MACN is doing? Are there any areas of collaboration in terms of cracking down against this corruption part?
So we see that corruption is really the wildlife trafficking breathes in. Yeah, so it's along the whole supply chain. It's going from the source through the port of origin, transit, and then to destination. Corruption in the form of bribery, it can be ad hoc to low-level officials, it can be systemic to high-level officials involving significant amount of money, and bribery can be to a customs officer to turn a blind eye. It can be to a transport company personnel to make sure that we're mostly talking about containers, of course, but not only. And for the let's say personnel in the transport company to ensure that container goes smoothly, or it can be paid to the law enforcement officers or even judicial system to obstruct the investigation.
Right.
So it goes through all the stages of supply chain. And then,
Thank you so much. Can I have a
Thank you.
Nelly, if you can take a seat there. And now I'd like to invite two of our panelists, Mr. Amod Khare. Amod
Deepak,
Khare is the Deputy Fleet Manager in
Deepak, can I just ask?
Anglo-Eastern. If you can take a seat there. Yeah.
Yes, Holly, I can hear you.
Are?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I will do that. And Captain Sanjeev Verma is the Managing Director of Land Bridge Ship Management Company. And I'm going to get Brandon or Deepak ji, they are also part of the panel. So I'm going to get you back, give you the sound. Yes, Brandon, would you like to say something about the wildlife?
Yes, if you don't mind, just very quickly before we go on to the next topic. For Nelly, I was really excited when I actually saw the program and I saw the wildlife was on the agenda. I come from South Africa, and wildlife poaching is a huge challenge in our wildlife parks. Recently, I was up in Shishlui Game Reserve, which is bordering the Kruger National Park, which is world famous, of course. And naturally, one of our biggest challenges on the poaching side of it is rhino poaching. And it's sad to see. So when I was up there, and this was a couple of weeks back, we saw some rhino. Actually, we were driving around the park and we saw some rhino. And the initiative, what they're doing is to protect the rhino now. They're dehorning the rhinos, so they're taking the problem away. So the rhinos that you actually see now they don't have the horns anymore. So I always think the next generation, when the children come around and they go back into these safari parks, they're not going to know that rhinos actually have horns. So it's a sad state of affairs, but what's actually happening is the dehorning is having a negative effect, because the poachers now, they are actually eliminating the rhinos that do not have horns. So they don't have to track them for days on end and then find out the rhino doesn't have any horns. So they're taking out the rhinos without horns and reducing the odds on actually getting one with horns. So Nelly, very good topic and big challenge in South Africa, and actually involves on the corruption side of it, government.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your comments. Yeah, we really appreciate it, because again, we feel that no one prioritizes it, and everyone looks at it as like some kind of a conservation issue will be solved by itself. But and to be honest, there is no even legal framework in some countries to prosecute it. So big seizures are reported, but it's yes, thank you. Big seizures are, there is no further investigation, because governments look at it as some kind of minor legal infringement rather than a serious crime, or there is no law allowing to prosecute wildlife trafficking. So the only way for us, let's say, to bring it further is to use money laundering legal framework. So we cannot use wildlife law. We instead use we look for money laundering links, because they have a higher penalty. They have like 10 years penalty, or like $1 million, 10-year sentence, or $1 million penalty. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Let me come to Amod. You have 4 minutes just to give an overview. What do you think about this entire matter? You can use that one.
You just want to use the...
Yeah, okay. That's all right.
Good morning. Good morning. Respected guests, Mr. Moderator, and my fellow panelists. Corruption happens when persons of authority abuses their position for their benefit or gain. Ships trading globally encounter several corruption issues, such as demands for cash payments, goods, or favor to carry out business as usual operations. Captains taking ships into port or transit often face demands for cigarette, cash, soft drinks, or alcohol. Often there is a threat of long delays, fines, along with the threat to their personal safety, which makes master and crew in extremely difficult position. As crew on board are very from different nationality, there are behavioral challenges faced when calling different ports. Personnel from port often play down upon captain and crew as they have authority to conduct business on their own terms. They devise various tactics to harass and shame the master and crew members by quoting some dubious local rules which normally crew members are not aware of and hence non-compliant. Taking advantage, demands are made for facilitation payments or extortion of bribes. Maritime Anti-Corruption Network work towards elimination of maritime corruption. Feedback data collected from anonymous incident reporting provide a detailed and precise information to the captains bringing their ships to port so that they have knowledge of policies and the backup to say no to the demands. Prior call to the Messian hotspots, ships are pre-informed to take measures to prepare the vessel. In these ports, when authorities learn the vessel is MSCN compliant, the officials express their frustration by becoming arrogant and non-receptive to ship staff preparation and courteous behavior. Health officers, custom officers search medical blockers for expired medicine, bond item inventory, and provisions for expired condiments. Any deficiency leads to the threat of rummaging of the bond items. Sometimes it goes to the extent of taking away paint, provisions, and other items from the stores. Port officials in such port work hand in gloves and provide information to the next team. They create a racket of unscrupulous demands by failing vessels during their onboard inspections. Some of the examples of different regions are, in Argentina, surveyors are known to fail the cleaned holes during inspection and then make demand for passing holes for cargo loading. Similarly, custom authorities even go to the extent of checking even lube oil in use in respective systems and whether they are included in the inventory or not. In Douala, West Africa, port officials have a specific requirement for CVS certification and do not accept other laboratory test certificate. In Mariupol, even small clerical mistakes in declaration of controlled medicine, paint solvent, lubes, and bunkers had each hefty fines in addition to confiscation of the wrong declared items. Suez Canal transits are notorious for cigarettes and other bought items and cash demand if there is any delay in ship's operation. In case of minor errors in the documents, masters usually get intimidated by the authorities. Different sort of legal documents are thrust on the master to make an appeal and succumb to the demand. Detentions issued against the vessel cause delay to the vessel. Owner and charterers also must take ownership and support the master. Some of the ship managers do not follow the MSCN and thus authority cite their examples to the compliant vessels, pushing them to follow the same. Captains and crew get frustrated with such ordeal of demand and little assistance to their suffering. Ships with long-term calling, similar ports, affect the crew morale with many asking not to go back to those ships. If all ship owners and managers join the anti-corruption network, it will leave no ground for the port authorities to penalize individual vessels. Technology has greatly helped in connecting all stakeholders. Ship-shore connectivity has been strengthened with good internet speed and mobile communication. Real-time reporting is possible with mobile phones. This has boosted confidence of the ship staff and empowered them to say no to the demands. Captains use MSCN compliance logo in signature so that port agent and authorities remain aware that ship compliant to MSCN practices prior to boarding the vessels. CCTV are installed in the bridge wings and ship's office to deter authorities and visitor in making demands as crew informs them that activities including conversation are recorded and remain online. For any unscrupulous demand or allegation, master has authority to involve local P&I correspondent to mediate on behalf of the ship owner. A mobile app called Global Port Integrity Platform on ship's phone is also being developed to not only make risk assessment of the port, but also to report and review data in real time. This software will put access to reporting and visualizing directly into the hands of the seafarers, operation team, and other frontline maritime stakeholders, making it easier to access risks and reject corrupt demands during port calls. Digital transactions of transit dues and other agency payments are proven to avoid bribery. Suez Canal Authority and Indonesian government has adopted such measures against reputation for bribery. Shipping is a derived demand, and it serves to carry cargo demand of the same port which tries to take advantage of the crew because they speak different language and belong to different culture. Agencies having cargo interest do not have direct involvement with the ship matters. This emboldens the authorities to treat ship staff differently. During pandemic, we have seen land and air route transport greatly suffered. However, sea transport and cargo carriage remained open. The crew sacrificed their freedom of movement and timely relief as most ports did not accept crew sign-off and had imposed travel restrictions. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has greatly affected the shipping world. Many ship-serving staff could not reach home and offices abandoned due to war. The grain stock which could feed the world is set to rot in the storage. I hope the war can stop without further devastation and human suffering. My salute to MACN organization that they are taking a good step to fight the menace of corruption existing in this industry. It has developed a trust between the ship owners and the ship staff. Every arriving ship and its crew will be treated fairly following ethical practices. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Amol. I mean, so very nicely put and summarized the entire thing. Based on that, just one very quick question to you, Brandon. If my company is, let us say, member of MACN, and I have that logo and very clearly, it is displayed in all my documentation, especially when I'm dealing with the port officials, whosoever they may be, will the P&I club give me a little bit rebate on the premium?
Very, very good comment. What we've actually done, we've had a big campaign in the last couple of years to get P&I clubs on board with MACN, and I think we have 6 large P&I clubs now as members of MACN. So naturally, reduction definitely approachable. Yes, in a nutshell, it's good to have the P&I clubs involved because naturally, again, they're at the coalface of it. And yeah, when we sit and talk here at high level, it's so important to get the stakeholders involved, and P&I clubs are one of the key stakeholders in this, because when there is an issue, naturally it normally ends up as a P&I issue, and it's an understanding with the P&I clubs on the work that MACN is doing. And yes, we're having the P&I clubs is also promoting the awareness globally.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Brandon, because I look at it, P&I club as a business, it's not charity, right? So it is risk and reward. So by involving ourselves or being signatory to the MACN, you're reducing the risk, at least the perceived risk, if not the real risk. And the premium is generally calculated based on the perceived risk. So the reward should be less if the risk is less. So, and this also will act as a carrot, maybe for all those who are not yet the MACN members. So with that, let me have Captain Sanjeev Verma, if he can give us his views. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamil sir. Uh, Good morning, all of you, and good day, who's online today. Fantastic topic, and I would not like to repeat whatever other speakers has already said for last hour and 15 minutes. Let me start with giving you a short story. Actually, that's my personal experience selling as a master in somewhere West African ports. It happens to be all preparing arrival for the port, the medicines, the provisions, all your ropes and stores and oils, everything sorted out. And we all set to arrive in a port. And when we arrived, here comes the agent and the port of health officials and rummaging the ships left, right, and center, top to bottom, funnel to tunnel, as we say. And they happened to find a packet of bay leaf. Well, this ship was manned by full Indian officers and Filipino crew, and chief cook was an Indian there. A bay leaf packet was having an expiry date, and it was over by a month. Bingo, they got something on that ship, and here comes the negotiation. Now, as a master, you always have that, when everything went so well, a packet of bay leaf, which literally those who are Indians in this audience know that actually there's no expiry date. So, the kind of a psychological trauma for the seafarers, through this story, I'm just trying to tell that part that corruption is something which boils down to the seafarers in the last. He's the person on the spot who has to deal with the authorities, with the extreme pressure, both from the operator's side or so-called the owner's side, to downsize the loss of the time, as well as the cargo owners and other interest. So it is really a very big issue. And we always say that why do we have to talk about it? Why not we talk about it? This has been a problem for decades, and this will remain a problem, as long as the shipping will be there, but we have to talk about it. Now, let me break down this corruption. This was the first part which happens on board the ship. But the second part which happens on the shore also. We have talked about a lot of stakeholders, but the biggest stakeholder to me is the ship operator or the ship manager in this case, It has to start from their side also. Often we say the messages are not clear if it is not been told to everybody in the company, So as a managers or operators, we have to also make sure that what messages we are giving is really applicable in our organization. There's no point telling MSCN logo on board my ship when my company itself, a lot of hanky-panky things are going on. Would my master or chief engineers would listen to it? No, they won't listen to it. So it's a big picture, it's a big game actually, where everybody involved has to work together. And I think platforms like MSCN is a great platform where we have to integrate this thing not to our onboard vessels, but also within the organization of the shore, and get the message very clear from the top down that this is what is our organization. And I'm very sure companies like, where Captain Nooni has just presented, I'm very sure things will be there. But like as you say, sir, that how many ship managers company are there? There could be many number of ship managers company who has to start everything from top. So my 2 cents on this one is that it's a big problem, but we have to collectively come together as a company to solve this problem, and then take everybody on board, Obviously, we cannot say that port health officials or port custom officers or immigration officers are all corrupt, If you look deep down ourselves, a lot of corruption points are there within our own chain, We have to pinpoint each one of them and start solving our problem before pointing the finger to other people. Thank you so much for this remarks, and we'll have a question and answers.
Thank you. I think I'll go back to what Deepak ji earlier mentioned. It's the port and the ship interface and the entire maritime ecosystem, right? So he talked about, dealing with the Indian Port Association. We have these major ports, and IPA is the governing or the collaborating or liaising body involving them. Then there are minor ports. Then, as he talked about, the custom house agents, the custom officials. I think that is where it is so important to grow that awareness and making people realize, not just focusing only on the crew, as you rightly said, that is in the end, the sitting duck. And that's why people take advantage, but now with this internet and quick communication and the determination through signing up for MSCN, I think that's very good. So can I quickly get Deepak ji, if you would like to add something more to what I've said, sir, or anything else you would like to share?
So, thank you, Mr. Jagmeet. Am I audible? Okay. So,
Yes, sir, you're
just,
audible.
yeah, thank you. So just to supplement with two observations. One was, I think MS Nelly did mention about, the wildlife. So I had highlighted it earlier in my presentation about the ramifications of corruption as a contributor in terms of a very organized endeavor to aid and abet money laundering and even counter financing of terrorism. So this is the message which I drive down in my interactions, that it's not just at a very simplistic micro level that this problem exists. In a manner of speaking, at a higher level, this could actually compound the fact that there are these organized criminal syndicates and that we are, ending up contributing to that. The second quick paradigm I just wanted to bring in is, the entity, the collective body of port agents, and this is my observation in the last couple of months that I've been on board MACN as senior advisor. And this is not to critique anybody around here. There is a great deal that needs to be done to sensitize this group of individuals. And of course, there are these capacity building programs which are targeted to them. But I suspect somewhere down the line, and I may, I'm absolutely open to correction, that unless we send across this message by outreaching to them, one is not too sure when they escalate demands, typically on behalf of an officer, as to whether the truth lies somewhere in between, whether it's a bona fide demand being articulated to an officer, or whether it's just an opportunity that is being leveraged by the agent, or whether the booty is shared between the two. So this is a message which I keep sending out when I interact with various public and private entities here, that you need to be watchful of what the agents do at the end of the day as well. And while we address the larger big picture, we need to look at this micro problem too. So what we have again done, just to very quickly wrap up, is address this at both ends of the spectrum. In India in particular, we are reaching out on a very focused approach to all individual companies, as well as to various associations such as FOSMA, MASA, INSA, and I don't want to get into the expansion of these acronyms. They're all very representative bodies of the maritime industry in the country. The Company of Master Mariners of India, Institute of Marine Engineers of India, because they're all critical stakeholders in this process and understanding. At the other end of the spectrum, of course, the interface and interaction that we have with government functionaries, where I just typically said of my interactions with customs, with the port authorities, the endeavor is to try and build a bridge between the two. And I keep saying in my interactions here that, why is MACN here? Please perceive MACN as a very neutral, autonomous, completely objective and dispassionate intermediary to try and be the sounding board for grievances of the master and the crew in terms of the friction, the pain points that they confront. And, they are repositories of a trust which the masters repose through their companies. And we then sort of, then take it forward and escalate it to the government agencies. So I articulate and say that, look, it's not that, first of all, it's almost impossible for a master to reach out to a government agency. So which is where we come in. So these are some of the minor nuances which we try and project in our outreach and communication and messaging that we do. But as I said, this is a long haul, but we are very much at it. Thank you, Mr. Jagmeet. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
My apologies. I think there is a major echo at your end.
Now we have time for the questions from the audience. Any question? Sharad, Rakesh? Yes, sir. Hi.
I just ask if you're liaising with the Nautical Institute about this?
Nautical Institute is member of MSCN. Let me quickly ask.
Okay.
Brendan is.
Yes,
I understood like Nautical Institute is a member of that. Gillian was, earlier I heard her speaking about it.
When I say correct, they're not actual physical members, but they are, when I say represented with MACN. And coincidentally, I'm on the committee of the Nautical Institute in South Africa here. And they asked me to give a presentation on MACN. So yes, very much so, Nautical Institute is involved. But again, naturally, there's more important, I'm not saying more important, but there's, we are making an impact into these organizations as we go along. But Nautical Institute is there. Yep.
Right, I'm on the Hong Kong committee of the NI, and that's why I was asking. It may be that somewhere in Seafarers, or there's been something I've missed about it, but I was unaware of your network until today.
Yeah, just to put some just to put some clarity.
When I heard Brendan, because I'm member of the BEWA, Baltic Exchange Witness Association, where Brendan is, so Jeffrey so very kindly organized this talk. And when I listened to him, that was the first time I heard about MACN. So that is why this question keeps on coming in my mind, is awareness, that we need to bring about that awareness. And that's the reason I said all the magazines, maybe we can have MACN corner, maybe we can have MACN column, just about 100, 200, 500 words, which are more informative and people know what is being done and how it is useful. Maybe some seafarers can write their own story, what happened and how MACN came to their rescue. So that was the idea.
So Mr. Makkar, can I just come in briefly?
Sir.
Hello.
Yes, Deepak ji.
Yeah. On the point that you raised in regard to reaching out to the members of the companies and their crew. So what we have done in India is, for instance, when we interacted with, this is just a very representative illustration. We reached out to a few companies in terms of our personal interactions with their senior management. So I was presented a magazine, as a token, when we left. I said, look, this is an opportunity. When I spoke to the CEO, I said, here is an opportunity, the interaction that we have had today with you in regard to MACN and what it stands for. If you can sort of put out a page or two, but we'll be happy to assist you with an article so that, when you disseminate it both at a physical and an electronic level, so the outreach is exponential. So we're doing that at an individual level. And for instance, the J.M. Bakshi and Company, it's a very large conglomerate here in India, if you're familiar. Now, they reached out to me for an interview for an in-house magazine, which they bring out every quarter. So I did that, and I made sure that I spoke fairly extensively about MACN and the philosophy that it stands for. So this is what we are doing. We're trying, and of course, we also reach out to various forms of the media, the electronic and the print media here, more particularly in the maritime space. And we are trying to sort of, convince them that they need to put out articles about MACN and the general drive that we are undertaking in India. And I'm happy that this seems to be resonating, but we still have a long way to go ahead. Thank you.
So just to tell you, I'm on the editorial board of the Institute of Marine Engineers newsletter, and we have segregated the newsletter from the journal itself. And that's the ideal place. We'll give you, I can talk to the rest of the members, we'll give you half a page. And every quarter, let's have something about MACN and that. Sir, anything more?
Thank you for that offer.
I was going to really add to what we've just heard. I'm a member of the International Bar Association as well. And I think the Business Crime Organization, the Anti-Corruption Committee, and the Maritime and Transport Law Committee would all be interested. They all have their own newsletters. And if you could give me something along the lines of what you'd like to go in them, I can submit them to the editors. And widen your message that way too. I'll be delighted to help.
Thank you so much. Brendan, would you like to say your thanks, and then later on I'll put you in touch with them, and then possibly we can give it another push.
All good.
Yep. Would you like to say something to that from the Bar Association newsletter?
Oh, sorry. Yep. Yes. Thank you very much to the gentleman who's just commented there. Yeah, that would be really great to get the message out there. Just to the policy in the MACN at the moment, and is on the membership side of it. It started off with ship owners, then naturally expanded to charterers and ship management companies, agents, now P&I clubs, and various other organizations. So that because the object is if we flooded, we need to be targeted in our approach, in that if we open up the membership to the entire maritime industry, the MACN's effectiveness will be lost. So we need to target the main stakeholders in the actual in the membership as we have today. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, I accept that. It's your organisation. I'm just making the offer. If you'd like to follow up on it, fine. If you don't, that's your decision. But I think it is. I mean, yep. I've been at sea myself, and I know what goes on, and I've experienced what goes on, and it's the little guys and people who are being squeezed all the time, and the effect it has on other people. And I think that the seafarers deserve our support and encouragement to report this corruption and try and stop it.
Yep. Look forward to it.
Yeah. Thank you. Would you like to say something? Yeah, sure.
Thanks so much, and when he did mention, because I keep meeting him in Nautical Institute meetings as well, because if you look at the entire ecosystem, when it comes to corruption on board the vessel, 9 out of 10 times.
Before that, to everyone here and people online, I won't be able to get their response. Since there was a lot of disruption in the beginning, is it okay if we take 15 minutes, extra 15 minutes to make up for that?
I'm fine with that.
And you don't ask for your money back? Yeah? Okay. So we'll have additional 15 minutes. Go ahead, please, Simon.
So what I was saying that, if you look at any form of corruption, those who are working in a shipping company, you'll always see that it boils down to the topmost command on board the vessel, which is the captain. Any form of corruption on board the vessel, this poor guy is being taken into one room and demanded money or whatever was this thing. So this is very good point, because Nautical Institute and the company of master mariners in individual countries, where the most of the master mariners are the member, educating them would be the one thing where they know something called MSCN exists.
Do you really think they don't know that corruption is a bad thing?
Everyone knows corruption is a bad thing, but like me, till you ask me the MSCN webinar or seminar is there, I also never heard of MSCN. So this is all about education, and why not, when the education is there, to take it to also is very important.
Thank you. All right. Yes, Sharon.
Just moving away from port agents and port authorities, I know there are certain companies who have some kind of an incentive scheme for port state inspections, where ship staff is given $500 or an X amount to get a zero deficiency report. And then they are given a kind of a blind check. You can keep the money or you can use it to get a zero deficiency. Is that, I mean, it's an open question to owners and managers. Is that a done thing? are we not
That's
indirectly
encouraging-
promoting?
That's encouraging corruption.
That's my point, yeah.
Anglo-Eastern has this practice that in case your vessels, or particularly my principals, FedNAV, they have, if you have a zero deficiencies, the incentive comes to the seafarers, especially because their efforts, they have put some positive
But
efforts
you're
to
not
get this.
using that to give 50-50 to the other guy and then
I-
take 50%.
No.
Okay.
This is not the way to think in that order. It is an encouragement to the ship staff to remain motivated and to bring positivity to these efforts.
Right. Since Mike is in your hand, Mike is right or Mike is right. Corruption, crime, and consequences. Any room for effective deterrence?
Yes, actually, as Sanjeev was saying, that master is the target, and every demand is made behind the closed doors. So training is important, and the technology which is now coming up, which is helping us to make a real-time communications with your office, ship shore connectivity, that is empowering the people or the ship staff, so that they can deter these demands which are coming up from the shore or the port authorities. And also we have installed the CCTVs, which when the port authorities, they see it is installed and it is working, that really helps to deter these advances of demands. And this is in practice also, it is happening, and we have seen it works a lot.
Sanjeev?
I think probably this topic will come a little bit later, but if I'm allowed to put on a little bit extra to that, I think for every ship's master or the ship operators, he's been kind of a guy who's been operating the ship for the ship owners. Ship owners are letting the ships to the ship charterers. So it's a big ecosystem. My personal view is that, like, everybody would like to do it, but then up to what extent, because, if you go very strong, take the stand that I'm not going to do it, but then eventually it leads to vessels getting off-hired, vessels getting away for the businesses, and eventually it impacts financially to the ship owners. Then the thing is that it might backfire you. So you have to have a very good cooperation from your owner, as well as from the owner's side, from your charters also. I'm very sure that this question will come up, but then believe me, if as an operator you ask your owners to share this is the question, but I will not touch that part. I will just still stick to this thing. As an operator, you go back to your owners and ask them to share the CPs, charter parties with you. Look at this particular clause is there or not. And believe me, I looked at all the CPs in my company, it's not there.
Just to add to that, I've got a charter here, and we have been so it's all matter of negotiation and the market condition. Whoever has got the, at a particular time, market in his or her favor, the clauses change, right? So I wish there was a standard charter party with boilerplate clauses that you can't change, but nothing is. People even try and change the general clause paramount. Can you believe that? I mean, that's the problem.
So, I mean, coming back from that side, we talk about education, educating the ship owners, operators, port officials. Educating to the charters is also one of the most important thing. Going to them, just bringing them as a member of MSCN will not help. Educating those charters who are negotiating the charter party clauses, that this clause has to be, there's nothing wrong in having this clause, And on top of that, some of the very big name in chartering world, actually, they bring their own anti-bribery clause. Now, this anti-bribery clause, if you read it, actually it's all about that zero tolerance to the bribery. But it doesn't talk about should you stop giving the bribery, will the impact will be to the owners or not. That doesn't be talked over there. And they are very proud to say that we have a clause which is much better than BIMCO anti-corruption clause. But if you look at the words, the BIMCO anti-corruption clause is favoring the ship owners to protect them, and thus the ship operator, should he take a stand that no, I am not going to give money to you.
I think some solution to that will need to be found. This obligation, when we keep putting it on the owner and all the losses on the owner, the charterer is happy with his anti-bribery clause, so that he, in his chain, can show that he has done the right thing, or he seems to have done the right thing. So I think, considering time, one of the slides that Brandon did not, I'm sorry, Brandon, I have to say that you did not spend much time on it. I would like you to spend 4 or 5 minutes, and to each of the C's, out of those 3 C's, the answer lies in those 3 C's. So if you can please take 5 minutes and explain each C, and look at it more from the practical perspective and give your guidance, what should we be doing? Thank you.
Yep. Okay, let me just pull it up. Yeah, for MAC at the, hang on, let me just pull it up here. Okay, so the 3 C's as we've got an MAC in here, capability building. So for us, basically, is providing solutions to the seafarers, basically, and companies to be able to tackle corruption and bribery and facilitation. So a good example of this on the capability building is the help desk. Okay, but naturally, we've got the help desks now in Nigeria. We've got 3 help desks. India's coming up and running, but this all comes naturally with a cost, and I'm going to go into that a little briefly. Is that because naturally to fund all this, we need it's members' contribution only, of course. We do have some sponsorship from international governments as well. So as on the capability building, it's tools and apps. So if you took that global port integrity platform, there's a classic. So if the master will have access to that, but he will also get, by the members, he'll be able to access this and see for himself the actual corruption that's taking place in that port prior to arrival. And now, naturally, once he knows that he's coming into that port, and I mean, I'm talking West Africa now. So any ship calling into West Africa, I'm sure all the masters today, they're very aware of what goes on in those ports. And as I would say it's the same for South Africa and many other countries as well. So again, it's the extent of it and how to defend himself when he comes into that port. So he's got various mechanisms. So capability building would be the port agent. If the port agent naturally is I'm saying MACN, I'm just talking from my side, is that he gets that notification 7 days out. And on there is very clearly stated the zero tolerance issues the very zero tolerance for MAC, and we're walking towards this. And the master needs to be aware of actually what's taking place in these ports. So the defense, number one, is for him to understand that there is corruption and facilitation in these ports, and we need to work with him to ensure that his vessel is expedited through that port as port agents. But then comes the tricky part, is that naturally the port agent, and I've been involved in this, in that where I've been told that we are the port agents and we need to solve the problem. So that is not actually when I say it's not the case, we're there to help and assist, of course, but the issue can't be deflected onto port agents. And I'm not defending port agents at all. I'm just talking in general that what I've been involved in. So I've seen cases, and I'll give you an example. Actually, it's always better with an example. I'm going back a couple of years pre-COVID, where we were notified. I was notified of an issue in Vietnam by a large mining corporation. What had actually happened was facilitation had taken place on board the vessel. The master didn't say anything, and what happened was And from a port agency, again, that's why reporting is so critical as a key element in this, from the master and from the port agents or anybody who's interfacing with government officials. Reporting is the key to this, because nothing was reported back into us as Wilhelmsen. So what happened was the master sailed a week out. He then reported to his owners. His owners went to charterers, charterers to shippers, and all hell broke loose. What actually happened was, and it wasn't, and I'm talking with, it could have been $100,000, or it could, in this case, it was, I think it was like 4 bottles of whiskey and 6 cartons of cigarettes. What actually happened is compliance lawyers were flown to Singapore by the mining company, and there was a whole investigation took place. Right or wrong, that's what happened. So it was escalated within inside that company, and this is a very large mining corporation, right to senior, to right to the top, this went. And today they use that case as a study in their own organization. So, which is good. And also, yeah, it's, but it's a good example of how things can escalate if nothing's reported. So capability building is definitely, the reporting tool is key there. Collective action speaks for itself. We're not going to move forward unless we collectively, as companies, collaborate together to eradicate and take out the corruption and facilitation in these ports. And then on the collaboration part, it's in industry collaboration. As I say, we're now working with IMO on this now. So various different industries as well on the collaboration side of it. And we are, as I say, we've managed to get all the getting the P&I clubs on board now, but it's getting the message out there and collaboration, working together with industry bodies basically to get the message out there and work with it. So, and again, just come back to the initial part. This is all the MAC and work that's done on the 3 Cs basically is all funded by members. Yeah. So it's, so it's, and again, naturally that comes with a cost. So you find a lot of companies say, no, it's too expensive to become a, and I get that quite a lot. When I've approached companies, no, it's way too much. So the membership fee, if you divide it over the cost of a fleet, it's minuscule. But when you talk about a membership, the word membership is actually misleading. So it's a collaboration of organizations actually would be a better term than just membership, because the moment you mention membership, people shy away from it. Did that answer your question there?
Thank you very much, Brendan. Now, should I say you can go back to sleep? Maybe after 5 minutes after I can, or rather, invite Sharad to convey a vote of thanks. Before that, if someone has a very quick question, a quick comment. Yes.
On board the ship. A lot of being asked to pay money to go and money getting money.
So this is where I would like Deepak sir to this topic keeps coming, especially in the Indian ship managers and recruiters concerning them, that the seafarers have to give lakhs of rupees, a lot of money to get on board the ship. How do we eradicate that, sir? Passing it to you, Deepak sir.
Thank you for that question, Rajneet. I'm acutely aware of this humongous challenge which has been sort of plaguing the Indian industry, and I think, let's be real, we just can't kid ourselves and shy away from it. But we need to be conscious that given the extant charter or the constitution, so to speak, of the MACN, our intervention also nuanced by the resources, the capacity, the manpower, the time and energy, is pretty much confined to seaside corruption. As of now, the MACN intervenes in instances of malpractice that is reported to us by the master and the crew and the agents, insofar as anything that happens by way of an interaction at the port side. Now, if we move to the shore side, it's an entirely different ballgame. As former Director General of Shipping, and for 2 years and preceding that, having been Additional Director General of Shipping for 4 consecutive years, so a 6-year span, I'm absolutely clear that the challenges which exist at the shore level for recruitment and placement, regardless of the fact that we have about 400 of such entities approved by the Director General of Shipping, there still are multiple instances reporting of fraud, of extortion demands. All of this begins right from the time of induction at the Maritime Training Institution, where cadets and trainees in subpar, quote unquote, rogue institutions have to cough out large sums of money to even get into the door. And then comes the challenge of completing the sea time, of the mismatch between the number of ships that are available, the number of seaboard slots, and to be able to complete their sea time or structured shipboard training so as to appear for the first certificate of competency exams. And then comes the issue of placements. So to address your issue on a more pointed level, there are institutions, including the Office of the Director General of Shipping, within the legal framework of the Merchant Shipping Act, where he's fully empowered to deal with cases such as this. All we can do is to report cases to them from MACN if it comes to our notice. But I'm afraid, and I need to be very candid here, that, as I said, given the charter of the MACN and the resource ability at this point in time, MACN may not be able to intervene in any of this, although at a human level, we are completely empathetic to that fact. But all we can do is to probably assist and facilitate at a humanitarian level. But I think that's about it.
Thank you very much, Deepak sir. That's in reality, the situation, Bhuva. So we can take it offline and discuss more and see if something that we can do. Yeah. No, I agree with you. There are some real issues. You have to keep an eye.
I know this is apart from MSCN discussion, as Deepak sir has already mentioned, but I think probably as a forum, we also look for the solution, not just the problems, all I can say that, from the company's perspective, these situations where the people have been asked to give money and to go on board the vessels, I think it boils down to the ship operators or shipping companies. And the message coming from top down, setting up some anonymous lines, anonymous reporting system would really help, because those people who have been asked to do such kind of favor, they can go back and report all those things. If the senior management of the company is really serious about it, I'm very sure this problem won't happen. I can tell you that example in my company, we have done it, and it's like an absolutely clean. Anybody who's been asked to pay a single rupee or single dollar has an approach to write up to me, actually, to tell me exactly what has happened. So it is possible to solve this problem. But again, as he said, thousands and thousands of companies are there. Some smaller companies, not possible. You end up cases like that. But I think this industry can be driven by those leaders in the industry. They can set the examples.
So, Mr. Sanjeev, if I may just very quickly comment.
That's the only way to handle it. Yes, sir.
There is this other international outfit which goes by the acronym ISWAN, International Seafarers Welfare Assistance Network, which is headquartered in London. They run a helpline precisely for, at an anonymous level, and sometimes even pseudonymous, perhaps even sometimes open, where instances of fraud and malpractice committed by recruitment and placement service agencies are reported by the seafarers. And they've been doing a fairly yeoman work in trying to work with the Maritime Administration as well as other stakeholders to try and get a handle on this. Incidentally, I also wear another hat as a global trustee cum director on ISWAN. So I'm mindful of that. So we're happy to collaborate, but that's distinct from MACN. That's the perspective which I just wanted to bring to bear on the table.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now, may I request Mr. Sharad Gupta to please thank everyone in presence here and also the ones in the cyberspace. Yes.
Well, we first have to apologize for the slight turbulence we had at the initial part of the voyage. but we're all used to it, and glad that we are finally here. So once again, sorry for the disturbances initially. On behalf of the organizers of today's event, Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, Hong Kong, and the organizers of the entire week at the Hong Kong Maritime Port Board, we'd like to thank our esteemed panelists present here and online, our title sponsors, Anglo-Eastern Ship Management, our gold sponsors, Valor Steamship, joint gold sponsors, Caravel and Fleet Group, as well as silver sponsors, KC Maritime, for their support for today's event. We'd like to thank all our support team, the staff at HKMA, event organizers, as well as media partners for their help today. It's a pleasure having you all here, as well as attending hundreds of those who've attended online. And we thank you for your time. One little note to add is we have another wonderful event, a very, very interesting topic for discussion, as well as cocktails on Friday evening, 25th this month. We look forward to seeing many of you there. So good day to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.